I work in end-of-life and estate planning, and I love movies. Sometimes those two things intersect. There are movies about death, dying, and grief, of course, but I feel like all too often when a movie is about death, dying, or grief, it tends to be a little too on the nose. I find it a lot more interesting when a movie is about something else entirely, but has a glimmer of something related to death, or it touches on a tiny moment that's an interesting lesson, or where there's something that a movie gets wrong, but it's interesting to figure out why they got it so wrong. I often find myself watching movies and TV shows and reading books, both fiction and nonfiction, through the lens of somebody who works in end-of-life and estate planning. And I have thoughts about what they got right, about what they got wrong, and the interesting moments that tell us something about how we view death. My family isn't terribly sentimental. We don't really have family heirlooms. The closest that I have to having a family heirloom is my great-grandparents' wedding certificate from 1902. But this wasn't kept because they were sentimental. It wasn't protected because it was important. I only have it because it was hidden away. My great-grandparents were married in late May, and my grandpa was born in early December. If you do the math, it doesn't really work out for a good religious couple. Grandpa was an oopsie baby. The wedding certificate was folded up and stashed away to minimize the chance that someone would notice that the dates don't really add up. As a result, over 100 years later, I still have my great-grandparents' wedding certificate, which is a thing of beauty, even if they kept it stashed away. This week, we're talking about the 2018 movie Nostalgia. There are a lot of movies called Nostalgia. I stumbled into this one while looking for a Russian film from the 1980s called Nostalgia, which shouldn't be confused with the other movie from 2018 called Nostalgia, or the 2022 movie called Nostalgia. I haven't seen any of the other Nostalgias. This Nostalgia from 2018 stars Jon Hamm, Catherine Keener, Nick Offerman, and Ellen Burstyn. I can't really give you a plot synopsis because there really isn't one. It's a vaguely related series of vignettes about the stuff we have in our lives and about what that stuff means to us. The characters in the movie include an insurance agent, an appraiser, a memorabilia seller, and the kids of aging parents who are helping them declutter their home after they downsize, and about how all of those people interact with the stuff they have in their lives. I try not to rate movies as good or bad, or even on a simple 1 to 5 star system. I, as I am wont to do, overthink my movies, and I have a much more complicated way about thinking about and rating and considering movies. My personal rating system includes such ratings as, I don't know, but I haven't stopped thinking about it. I appreciate it more than I liked it. It's good, but not really for me, and I really have no idea. I don't have a specific rating category for this movie, but it would get all of the stars if I had a category for movies about things that I think about on a daily basis. Because nostalgia is about stuff. It's about why we save the stuff we saved. It is a movie about decluttering. Nostalgia is about our relationship with the objects in our lives. Several times during this movie, I thought about a quote from my favorite horror fiction podcast, The Magnus Archives. You never realize how many possessions you have until you find them weighing you down, or how little value most of them have to anyone but you. I have 4 main estate planning takeaways from this movie that vaguely map on to the 4 parts of the movie. As I've mentioned before, the specific plot points of this movie aren't really relevant, so I won't go into them in any detail. First, decluttering. The first section of this movie is about an insurance agent who is appraising a grandfather's stuff on behalf of one of the grandchildren. The appraiser isn't able to help much until much of the stuff is sorted through and decluttered, but the granddaughter doesn't want to have to deal with everything. She says it more delicately than this, but she really only wants the good stuff. She only wants the stuff of value. In talking to the insurance appraiser, she asks, why can't Grandpa just go through everything? Why can't Grandpa sort through everything? She wants the stuff of value, but doesn't want to have to potentially go through everything. It really reminded me of the quote from Margarita Magnusson, the author of the book, The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. A loved one wishes to inherit nice things from you, not all the things from you. Here is my regular reminder. Decluttering is estate planning. Everything that you bring into your home will one day have to be removed by someone. You or someone else in your family. So declutter your real or online life regularly. My second takeaway is about how differently different people value the same things. This section of the movie deals with one character selling items to a specialty dealer. There can never be a single value that an item is worth. Even if you're only talking about straight up monetary value, there's the price you paid for the item, its value for insurance purposes, the insurance replacement value, and the resale price. Different things have different values at different times to different people. Different people in the same family may value the same things differently for different reasons. A memorabilia dealer and a collector might place very different values on the item, and either one of those values are likely different from the value that the owner places on the item. And that is all before you even begin to talk about sentimental value. An item might mean nothing now, but after your person is gone, that item might mean everything. An item might mean everything to you, but nothing to your grandkids. And then there's a sort of an intangible value. Why do we keep vinyl albums when you can download that same music more easily? That isn't about the monetary value of the thing, and it isn't necessarily sentimental, but it's some other more ephemeral way we value an item. I've heard more than a few estate attorneys stress the importance of dealing with sentimental items in your will. That bank accounts and money are pretty easily divided, but sentimental items aren't. It's sentimental items that are the most likely items to cause family disputes and potential litigation. My third takeaway is about sentimental items and the memories our stuff holds. This section of the movie stars John Hamm and Catherine Keener as adult children clearing out their parents' home after they've downsized and moved to Florida. This section touches on what parents leave their children, or more to the point, what do your children even want? Often when downsizing or doing Swedish death cleaning, there are three basic categories of stuff. First, there's the stuff that's pretty easy to keep, stuff that's valuable or that's a specific family heirloom. Then there's the stuff that's pretty easy to get rid of. All of the miscellaneous stuff in our lives, everyday clothing and housewares, stuff that doesn't really mean anything to anyone. But then there's the third category of stuff that isn't really valuable, but that is charged with some sort of emotional memory. This is the really challenging stuff. One quote that struck me here, it's a quote that I was going to put on my quote board, but it's too long, is from the daughter who had been asked to help her mom clean out her grandparents' attic. She says that she's willing to help, but she doesn't know how. Her quote, "I don't know what this means to you, the stuff you grew up with, your memories of having these things. What do you do with the stuff that no one wants to keep, but that everyone wants kept?" One character, Donna, talks about putting some of her parents' stuff in a storage unit the stuff that she wants to keep, but that she doesn't want in her house. She wants it, but she doesn't want to have to look at it every day. This is a big reason why storage units are such a booming business in the US. My final takeaway is about how we are what we leave behind and how this is changing in the digital age. This is something that I think a lot about as more of our stuff is disposable and digital. Back in the day, when somebody died, we knew what that person liked because they were surrounded with it. You were surrounded by the books you liked and the CDs you listened to. If you wanted to know more about the person who died, you could pull a book off their shelf and see what passages they underlined or what pages they dog-eared, what albums had the most scratches on them. Now, much of that stuff is digital. You might be able to access that information if you have that person's password, but a lot of that digital information doesn't belong to you or to your estate and may very well be lost to the ether after you die. The notes you make in your Kindle books will go away when Amazon takes back their books when you die, because as a reminder, you don't own the books you bought from the Kindle store. You bought a license to read that book from the Kindle store. Those books aren't yours and you can't leave them to anybody. This is something I think a lot about. You have hundreds of photos on your phone, but no photo albums. You have digital books, but your people don't have your notes in the books and your handwriting in the margin. Your people won't have a tangible way to know what was important to you. It also goes the other way. I often wonder about how our online lives and things like social media will impact how future generations remember us. I have one photo of my great-grandparents, the wedding photo that goes along with the long hidden away wedding certificate. I have maybe 10 photos of my grandparents. The photos I have of my parents are largely only from vacations or holidays. Now, most of us take dozens, if not hundreds of photos a week. Surely that is going to change how our people in the future remember us. But I guess that question will only be relevant if our people are able to access those photos. How many digital photos are saved on computers that no longer exist, or that are saved on floppy disks or CD-ROMs or videotapes that can no longer be accessed, or on apps that won't allow others to access or save the photos, or apps that go under without warning? I am no Luddite, but there is a reason that I still buy my favorite movies on DVD and get my favorite books on paper and write in the margins. And I'm always sure to print out my favorite photos.